Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Station and this series of videos which was recorded during the 2011 Rab TGO Challenge, which for the uninitiated is a 200-mile walk from the west coast to the east coast of Scotland, organised by TGO magazine, and the entry forms for it can be found in the October issue each year. Now what I've tried to do in this video is record well, the landscape and what the experiences are like to actually do a 2-week walk of this nature across that sort of landscape, showing you the routes we took and also some of the weather conditions. Sadly, the weather conditions this year weren't particularly good, which resulted in us doing very few pieces to camera. We had hoped to do a lot more in camp and explaining sort of the equipment we've used and the reasons why we chose it or taken it. However, what we've done this time, because of the situation, is we've still recorded the event, we've recorded the conditions as best we can, and we've broken down equipment reviews at the end of each of these videos. So, I hope you enjoy it, and here's our experience of walking across Scotland in 2011. Looking at the clothing we took this year, I'll quickly go through my gear, my selection and the reasons why I did it, and Rose will do hers afterwards. So starting from the bottom to the top, my favourite footwear is Inov-8 Rocklite. Not a waterproof shoe, obviously a trail shoe or a trail running shoe, and I have to say absolutely brilliant. It was very wet underfoot. Yes, my feet got wet. No, they didn't get cold, because within 2 or 3 minutes the water is pumped out of your shoes, and your feet, which are generating a lot of heat generally, soon warm your feet up, and minimal problems. Blisters wise, a lot of people had blisters this year, a lot of really bad blisters, and mainly boot wearers, and I believe personally that's down to the amount of heat that your feet give off and the moisture it generates, and it can't escape from a sealed boot. Consequently, we had a couple of minor blisters, if that at all, but compared to a lot of people, we were very lucky, very comfortable, I suppose. So I'm very pleased with those. The X socks, the Trekmate X socks, personally, I find that a fantastic combination with the Rocklites. And they grip inside the Rocklite, and you certainly feel much more in contact with the ground, and consequently, because your footwear is so light, you have a choice of where you place your feet, as opposed to boots, which sometimes lead you from one puddle to the next. Going further upwards, we have the Terra Pants, the Terra zip-off pants, what do they call, the trekking, not trekking pants, they just called the Terra zip-offs. And obviously they weren't zipped off this year at all, but the whole Montane Terra Pants range is second to none in my opinion. They're fantastic, they're very, very light. Certainly when you get wet they dry, or they appear to dry virtually instantly, and they're just a good all-round outdoors trouser. So it's a wonderful material they use in the whole range. But I took the zip-offs just in case it was sunny this year, and obviously I was extremely disappointed. Further up I was wearing a Montane Bionic-T. This is my base layer tee, which is a mixture of merino wool and artificial fabrics. It did everything it said on the tin. It wicked all the moisture away, but because of the artificial fabrics there was a bit of a whiff that went on after a few days. Not really unpleasant, but noticeable, because we were covered up all the time in our waterproof, so it wasn't allowed much air circulation. And then for briefs I've just got a pair of Vaude men's lightweight briefs, but I'll show you my spare pair. So that was my base layer. Because of the weather condition was so appalling, basically I'll show you how I was dressed during it. This was my insulation layer, which was a Smartwool 150 gram long sleeve shirt. I always take, this is an insulation layer. I normally take a fleece, but I wanted something that was considerably less bulky. And what I should have done is taken two of these, or taken the slightly thicker version, just because of the weather conditions turned the way they did. So it was very, very good. It did the job, but I could have done just with another one on those really long cold days. But from a practical point of view, it didn't whiff at all, no matter how many days continual wearing I wore it for, and extremely comfortable, and of course very, very light and small to pack, considerably smaller obviously than a fleece. So that was good. So that was my I'll put that to one side here, travelling layer. Right, so from the feet up again we had the Backpackinglight Trail Gaiters, which are these here, and they just clip onto the front of the shoe down there, and they go around the ankle, just around the ankle like that, and that stops all the gorse and heather getting into the shoe there, which is very, very annoying. We'd have to keep stopping and taking that out. Again, all breathable, very, very stretchy. The actual piece that goes underneath the shoe broke during the trip, and I replaced it with a bit of Dyneema there, which is great because you can actually do the repairs as you go along. So that was fine. As I say, we spent pretty well, I'd say 80% of the trip in waterproofs continually. It rained during the day, it rained when we put the tent up, it rained all the way through the night, and then it rained as we take the tent down, and continued the following day. And I think we had 6 days of continual rain when we first started. That was on our particular route. But my waterproof trousers are my old Berghaus Packlite trousers, just an old favourite of mine. The reason I like these as opposed to some of the newer event trousers like the Montane event trousers is they are still lighter than the event trousers, and because the Montane ones, which I also have, seem to have a slightly bulkier zip, they don't pack down as well and as small when you shove them on the outside of your rucksack. On my torso I took this, which is the new OMM Cypher Smock, which was fantastic. I can't tell you how good it was. It's a no-frills smock. It's just got one chest pocket there. It's got thumb loops on the arms, and nice long arms as well, because I'm a long arm person. And it did everything it said on the tin. It's been nicely designed so that there's actually only 1 or 2 seams in it, just to reduce the chance of leaking. But extremely light. I think it's just about 200 grams or so, or just over 200 grams. And I have to say, I was well and truly convinced. I hadn't used it before this trip, so it was a bit of a risk, but it proved sound and exactly what you'd expect from a waterproof event smock that comes from an adventure racing stable such as OMM. So I was very pleased with that. The hands were forever getting cold, and when your hands get cold and wet, some of the gloves with liners are particularly awkward to get your hands into, and these are no exception, sadly. A pair of stickies here, which make those outdoor design stickies, with a sticky on the hand, and obviously fleece mesh on the outside. Didn't use those that often because I had my waterproof gloves on all the time. And again, they're Trekmate's waterproof gloves. They've got some grip on the fingers here, The only time I struggled was when my hand was too wet and I tried to get them inside and it stuck to the layer. And I think people who've been through that experience understand the frustration of when you've got cold hands and you can't get them inside your glove because it's all sticky. So I'd actually prefer to get a pair of these gloves if I could that didn't have any lining in them at all, that still allowed you the manipulation of the fingers for all the controls and, you know, GPSs and that sort of stuff, cameras and so on. Then what else? Well, of course we had the had to have a cap. Had to have a Golite cap. There you go. And super breathable, lightweight cap, peak cap, which not only is just useful generally for obviously keeping a bit of heat in, but in particular it's got a really good peak on it, and that peak then keeps the hood of the jacket away from flapping around your face, just very useful, very practical. So I hardly ever took that off at all. And also I hardly ever took off is one of my selection of buffs. There is a standing joke about how many pieces of headwear that I take with me, and of course we do like to have things that don't clash and you allow you a certain amount of individuality, which buff do of course. So I had a blue one, I had a stripy one, and I had an Inov-8 red one, which was all part of the fun really. But again, very, very useful stuff. People know about buffs and what you can do with them, but one of the added advantages for me is because you're going to sleep fairly early and it's still light, and you're getting up early when it is fairly light, I use it as a blindfold, and I actually sleep a lot better with it across my eye. There you go. Right, so that was what I'm almost wearing on a daily basis. The other item that we take that we would have expected to use on a daily basis, but really hardly did, was a windshirt. In this case it's the men's Lightspeed here, Montane men's Lightspeed, Pertex windshirt with a hood. I think I probably wore it about 3 or 4 times, if that. But usually on a trip like the TGO in Scotland, I would be expecting to be walking in just this base layer and this windshirt for most of the trip, unless it rains. So it gives you an idea of just the weather variety that you have to expect or cater for, just in case it doesn't work out how you anticipate or hope it works out. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, that's the thing. Okay, so that was my clothes that I was wearing, and you can see what I'm wearing here. This is my spare clothes, which was kept in a dry bag inside. So I took 3 pairs of socks. Obviously I'm wearing 1, 2 spare, and again all trekking lights, light trekker, is it? Treklight? Treklight, yeah, Treklight. I have a Montane Beanie, again for keeping my head warm, possibly during the day, but more often than not just at night time, just to put on my head, which I can't remember how often I used it, but perhaps a bit. These are the Vaude briefs, and artificial fabric again, so they required washing fairly regularly, but they dry very, very quickly, so they were a good success. And again, 3 pairs of those, 1 on and 2 in the dry bag. And then this was my dry top that went in hand with the Primaloft trousers that I've already shown you, and that was a Montane Bionic long-sleeved tee, or long-sleeve shirt rather. But to be honest, I hardly wore that at all. I kept my my tee on. I took my tee off at night time, and I'd wear the Smartwool top because it didn't smell. So I'd sleep in the Smartwool top, and as I say, the Primaloft trousers and possibly a dry pair of socks if my feet were really, really cold, which happened occasionally. And then finally we have the insulation layers, which I've combined with wearing inside the tent and also wearing to increase the insulation when sleeping. My favourite is the Klattermusen Liv down smock, but a lot of people were using PhD smocks this year, I noticed, which have the same sort of performance features. Very, very warm for very, very small amount of space when it's all crunched down. And as I mentioned, the Photon pants, the Rab Photon pants, Primaloft trousers, which pack away relatively small, pretty good, but they offer a lot of comfort inside the tent, and certainly most people noticed this year were using the system that when they got into camp, they would change into their warmer insulation clothing, dry clothes obviously. They're kept dry in a dry bag, and that made for you know, more comfortable, because you could move around the tent without having to be tucked in the sleeping bag all the time and do your cooking and whatever you needed to do. But again, people are using different varieties of this type of thing. This is the Rab Photon, as I say, but PhD do a down pant, and I think some people have got some cocoon pants from America. But the principle's the same. A lot of insulation for very, very little bulk, and smart enough to wear down the pub in the evening. And finally, we are looking at these things. Crocs, or in this case probably Croc copies. Useful but frustrating. Very light, that's one positive. Useful in the sense that if you need to slip on a pair of shoes, footwear to go to the loo during the night, or if you go to the pub or you want to relax your feet, give them a different sensation, then these are great to just slip on and off you go. A lot of people, such as Rose, was using them for river crossings because she had Gore-Tex lined boots, but that slowed down the river crossings quite considerably, obviously because we had so many river crossings to do. The downside to them is they're just bulky. They're you know, a fairly solid item. You can obviously pack inside them, but they're just a pig to pack, and so generally you just have them clipped on the outside of the bag. But the combination worked really well. So I had one small bag, dry bag with my dry clothes in it, another one with my down jacket in it, another one with the Primaloft pants, and that was it. And they were kept, thankfully, they were kept dry, which makes life a lot more pleasant. You don't like sticking on wet clothes. Obviously when you get into the tent and you're already wet, it can be unpleasant. So that's my review of the clothing that we took.
Okay, right, what have I worn? Starting with my boots. These are ladies' Meindl boots. I think Bob's already explained they're Gore-Tex lined. Had them about 5 years, love them to bits, really comfy, but I was so frustrated this year with all the water and river crossings, so I'm really going to now look for a pair of trail shoes that I can just wear that fit my feet. I've had trouble in the past finding some that are comfortable, but definitely going to look for some now to do the next trip in. Smartwool socks, which I love, really comfortable. I think Bob's explained about the Montane Terra Pants. Again, I've had these probably 5 or 6 years. They still wear so well. These are ladies specific, which are really good, tailor fit, really comfortable, just great. Wore this top that's again an old faithful favourite. It's a merino wool. It's a Macpac. I don't know if you can still get this top, but I love it. I've used it for ages, and generally I would just wear this with a wind shirt. However, this year, because it was so wet, I think we walked with waterproofs most of the time. Buff, always take a buff, a couple of these. I'm sure Bob's explained how useful they are for all sorts of things, but for me too, to keep my hair back, brilliant. In addition to that, I took one short-sleeved Montane Bionic-T, hoping for the sun, and a pair of running trail tights, which if it was really cold I can double up in the sleeping bag, or I can walk in them. They're really comfortable, but they pack down really small and light, and very comfortable to wear. And then I had a mid layer as well, which is again Montane Gazelle jacket. Again, I've had this one for quite a long time, just really nice fit, really comfortable, got nice venting panels on the side as well. That was my dry set of clothes. In addition, I had another buff, another 2 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of quick dry knickers, and a couple of bra tops as well, sports tops. For headwear, a cap, which Bob's explained the reasons for that, really good. A beanie, which this is a Berghaus one, I just like it, it's just easy, light, and great to use. Hands, I get cold hands quite a lot, and I found for me the best combination is a pair of stickies, which are nice and warm and you can just dry, and then doubled with some overmitts, which if it's just windy and cold I can just put these on. Obviously if it's raining they go on, and in combination it just really worked, especially with this wet weather that we had. So it was really good from that point of view. In addition to that, I had my main insulation layer, which is again a down jacket. This is a Golite one, again one of my favourites. I've had it for quite a long time. Really warm, really snuggly, crunches down to nothing. Always keep this in a dry bag at the top. And actually this last trip, the one day after we'd been walking for several hours, I was so cold I actually stopped under a big redwood, pulled out at the top of my pack and put it on underneath my waterproofs because I was so cold, and it did the trick. It was brilliant. So apart from that, I have a windshirt, which actually didn't get used as much as normal because we were wearing waterproofs. Great piece of kit, scrunches down to nothing, wouldn't be without it. Again, it's a Montane, female specific, and I have to say they just have such a nice tailored kit, so I really like their stuff. Waterproof Venture jacket, again it's one I've had several years, works a treat. My only frustration with this jacket is it doesn't have a chest pocket, and actually I missed that central pocket. Venture pants as well, oops. Again, these were great, they're just so hard wearing. I've used them for so much, you can see they need a clean. But long zips, just lightweight, did the trick. And they've also, as you can see, they've got this reinforcement if you're doing some scrambling as well. I used them in Sweden last autumn as well for canoeing, and they were great for that. And then finally I actually took a pair of lightweight gaiters, which actually were quite useful when it was extremely wet and going through the bogs and stuff, so that was useful with my boots. And the Crocs, which were used a lot with the river crossings this time, and also around the camp they're great to slip on, just bulky, although they're really light, they're bulky to pack. And that was me, sorted.